As Jasmine stood by the window, her gaze still fixed on the storm, she whispered, "Kevin." Just as she spoke his name, a loud clash of thunder rattled the building, followed by a brilliant flash of lightning that made her jump in fear. Without hesitation, Kevin reached out, catching her by the waist, pulling her close to steady her. Their eyes locked, and in that moment, something shifted between them. The tension, the unspoken attraction that had been building since the moment she stepped into his apartment was no longer ignorable. For Jasmine, this was unlike anything she had ever felt before. She had lived a somewhat sheltered life: work, home, and work again. The occasional dates her friends had set her up on were always a letdown. Boring men, mama's boys, or those who tried too hard to be something they weren't. It had all felt so routine, so unfulfilling. She had to laugh to herself at the irony of it all. Standing in a room with a man she barely knew. Yet her mind, body, and soul seemed to have already made the decision for her. This felt different. Her breath caught in her throat as she realized how easily she had let her guard down with Kevin. It wasn't just a physical attraction, though the spark between them was undeniable, but it was something deeper. She could feel it in the way her heart raced, in the way his arms around her brought not just comfort, but a strange, thrilling sense of certainty. Her thoughts swirled, but she couldn't fight what her body was telling her. The storm was fierce, but the storm within her was far stronger. In that moment, as the wind howled and the rain slammed against the windows, Jasmine knew she was on the verge of something. Something could change everything. Without hesitation, Kevin reached out, catching her by the waist, pulling her close to steady her. Their eyes locked in that moment. Before either of them could think, their lips met in a kiss. Slow, soft, but filled with a passion that took them both by surprise. For Jasmine, this kiss felt different than anything she experienced. It was as though something clicked into place. Something she had been waiting for without even realizing it. Could he be my soulmate? She wondered, her heart racing as the kiss deepened, feeling entirely natural, as if they'd known each other forever. As for Kevin, the warmth of Jasmine's body pressed against his, the softness of her lips, and the electric pulse of the storm outside made him lose himself completely in the moment. He had always prided himself on being responsible, level-headed, the kind of man who thought things through before acting. He dated plenty of women. Some he had even fallen for deeply, and others, well, there were a few things who had brought nothing but chaos into his life, to the point where he had put a restraining order in place just to get peace. But, oh my God, none of them had ever made him feel the way Jasmine did in those few hours. There was something about her, something that bypassed all of his usual defenses, making him feel things he hadn't even realized he was missing. The intensity of it all hit him like the storm raging outside, raw, undeniable, and powerful. In her presence, the careful walls he'd built over the years seemed to crumble, and the control he was so used to having slipped through his fingers. Jasmine wasn't like anyone he'd ever known. In these few short hours, she had already shifted something inside him, something deep and primal. It was like his heart had been waiting for her all along. And now that she was here, standing so close, he could barely think straight. The soft jazz music playing in the background mixed with the sound of the rain, creating a perfect symphony of emotion. Slowly, as if coming up for air, they pulled away from each other, both breathless, but neither saying a word. The silence that followed was thick with meaning, with feelings neither of them could yet fully express. But somehow they both knew things would never be the same again. Kevin gently took Jasmine's hand, his fingers warm and steady as he led her to the sofa. The room was still bathed in the soft glow of candlelight, storm outside continuing to rage. With each step they took, Jasmine's heart pounded harder in her chest. Her thoughts were a whirlwind of emotions. What am I doing? She wondered, panic and excitement battling within her. I don't even know this man, she reminded herself, her logical mind trying to pull her back. But then there was an undeniable pull of her body, her heart, both of which seemed to know him in ways she couldn't explain. Oh God, she thought, I'm so confused. But why does this feel so right? As they reached the sofa, Kevin let go of her hand, his touch lingering in her memory. She hesitated, her mind racing. What am I about to do? Her breath was shallow, her body alive with sensations she hadn't expected. She glanced at Kevin, who was watching her with a steady, unreadable expression. The storm outside was a distant sound now, drowned out by the storm within her. The room felt impossibly intimate, the air thick with unspoken possibilities. Kevin's hesitation melted away as he looked at her, and with a slow, deep breath, they leaned back into the sofa, falling into each other's arms once more. Their kisses became urgent, more consuming, as they gave into the desire that had been simmering between them for what felt like forever. Jasmine let out a soft moan, her body pressing against his, and whispered between their kisses, Kevin, I want to. The storm outside may have raged, but within the warmth of Kevin's apartment and arms, something else was brewing. Something felt permanent. As they lay on a sofa under a plaid blanket, watching the storm fade in the sunrise, they were holding each other close. Jasmine realized the connection between them wasn't just a passing moment. It felt different, deeper. Kevin, sensing her thoughts, leaned down and kissed her forehead gently. We're not just caught up in the storm, are we? Jasmine smiled, shaking her head. No, I think we might have found something real. Now you have experienced the rendering of Romantic Story with the help of crafted stories created for you and by you, GPT. Disclaimer, when writing these stories, ask Chatty to take your story right to the policy, and you can write in what you want once you copy it to a doc. Happy writing.